My name's Gavin Grewal. I'm a solicitor at White Dalton Motorcycle Solicitors, and I have with me
Andrew Prendergast. I'm also a solicitor.
And the topic of today's episode is the truth about the UK court system. So we could sit here and talk about this for a very long time, but I think we'll narrow it down to the courts a biker is likely to find himself in.
Yeah, if something happens, specifically within England and Wales. So if you've got any issues north of the border in Scotland, that's not something we deal with, but there's some great boys and girls up there who do deal with that kind of work. But we're going to look at England and Wales and the court systems that our clients have to deal with day in, day out, depending on what's happened to them, really.
Before we jump into civil and criminal, should we start with the saddest court, truthfully?
Yeah, no one likes dealing with this one. This is the coroners court. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about really the three courts we deal with a lot, which are the coroners court, the criminal courts, and the civil courts. So if you're a biker and something's gone wrong, if it's gone horrendously wrong, you might have to deal with the coroner's court if it's your loved one left behind, perhaps. So we're going to try and explain who's who, because we get a lot of phone calls where people understandably are not sure who does what and why. And we're really focusing on the biker side of things. If you've got other legal issues, it might end up dealing with these types of courts, but in different ways. So we're going to stick with coroners, the criminal courts, and the civil courts. So the coroners courts, stating the obvious, deal with people who have died, unfortunately, and their job is really limited. They're really only there to answer 4 questions, which sounds a bit mad perhaps to the layman, but they are literally there to answer 4 questions, which is who died, when they died, where they died, and importantly for everyone, how that person died. And sometimes we get phone calls where someone's, let's just make it the husband's died and the widow's phoned up, and they're not too sure like what's happened. And we'll talk about the interplay between the coroner's court in a second and the criminal courts. But basically, in a coroner's court, it's dealing with people who've had a sudden and unexpected death. For example, if I, as a 40-something-year-old man, suddenly died tomorrow, the coroner might go, right, I'm opening up an inquest because this is a sudden unexpected death. And then they'll work out an answer after hearing evidence and answer the 4 questions I've just talked about.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the coroner is not there to find blame. So
Popular misconception.
Yeah, they have to find an answer to the 4 questions. And is it worth going with a solicitor to an inquest?
Yeah, I'll come on to that in just a second. Just hold on and pause in a second for the sudden and unexpected death. So if I suddenly died tomorrow in a car accident, for example, or a motorcycle accident, there might be an inquest that's opened. And depends what happens with the criminal courts, whether that inquest will then happen. But let's just say I unfortunately lose control on my own and hit a telegraph pole or something. Then an inquest will be open, no one else is involved, no one's been prosecuted, so the coroner would then answer the 4 questions, and then there'd be an outcome, effectively. If, alternatively, you had a very old person, a 100-year-old person, die in their sleep, then whilst that's sad, that's not an unexpected death. So the coroner's unlikely to have a big inquest about that because someone's died naturally at the end of their life as a 100-year-old person. So that's kind of the difference between the two. So coroner's inquests, talking about those, we've both done inquests over the years. That's something that White Dalton have always prided itself on. We go along and we'll represent families for free. And it's easier for us than the family. They're emotionally involved often, so we haven't got to deal with that emotional element because it's not our loved one. So we'll go along and we'll represent families sometimes at inquests if we're asked. And what will happen there is the coroner will open an inquest and then they'll hear evidence from people. So it might be, in our sort of cases, it might be a police officer who's attended the accident scene and they've gathered some evidence and written a big detailed report about where vehicles have ended up, what time people left, where the sun was shining, conditions of the road, all that kind of stuff. Coroner might also hear from witnesses who saw the accident. And then at the end of it, they'll give a verdict, basically. That's what normally happens. And often coroners, which I'm always blown away by how clever some of these boys and girls are. I was up in Leicester, I think, a couple of years ago. The coroner, she was fantastic, very clever woman. She'd gathered all together all this evidence, which had taken me like 3 days to read, digest, ask questions to the police officer about, represent the widow. And she summed it all up within, 20 minutes. Almost off the bat, clearly wasn't. She was clearly experienced and well prepared. But there we are. She gave a spoken verdict to tell the family the answer to the 4 questions. And away we go. That brings the coroner's inquest to a close.
Yeah, and actually coroners, they are a judicial posting from memory.
So they are judges effectively.
Yeah. And I asked the question, is it worth lawyering up? I remember the one that I had to deal with, sadly, for a family. It was worth having a lawyer there. I was the spokesperson because I could dispassionately put questions to the police officer, whereas the family, very sad, they've lost a loved one. It gives them a bit of breathing space and the ability to give that to a lawyer to do. I have to say, I think we do pride ourselves on doing that pro bono, free of charge.
Yes.
Because they're fellow bikers.
There's loads, and it's not just us. There's sort of often goes unspoken the word or the phrase pro bono. Basically, there's lots of lawyers out there. I know sometimes people think we're charged for everything we do, but there's lots of lawyers out there, including our firm, that does lots of pro bono work, free work to help people, and coroner's inquest is one of those. So you're absolutely right. Is it worth getting a solicitor? Well, if you can sort of take the emotion out of it, great. But if it was one of my loved ones, I probably would get a lawyer to help me, because, being brutally honest, not cry during it, get emotional about it, get angry about it, all normal human reactions. But as a lawyer, you can sort of have that one step removed to put forward the right questions to get answers for the family, but you're not so emotionally entangled with it usually. So that's coroner's court briefly. The next courts we want to talk about is criminal courts.
Yes, yeah. So criminal courts, if you are alleged to have done something naughty, whether it's excess speed, whether it's popping a wheelie on your motorcycle, or even just document offences, keeping a vehicle that's not insured on the road. So these will be dealt with at the first stage in the magistrates' court. Now, what is a magistrates' court? It's the entry-level court for all criminal matters. They do deal with some very, very few civil matters, but really that's so far removed from bikers. Yeah. It's probably not worth talking about.
I was talking to a relative about this. It was actually my brother, about what the history of magistrates' courts and crown courts, and if you want to delve into the history of it, there's a huge plethora of information. But for you, the biker at home, what you need to know, unless you're a real history buff, is magistrates' court is the court you end up most of the time. People are lay people.
Yeah. So you don't always have a judge in a magistrates' court.
Yeah.
More often than not, you are judged by your peers, and that will be magistrates who are volunteers.
They get some training, and they're not just let loose.
Well, actually, they always have a legal advisor.
Yeah.
So you'll see that if you go into a magistrates' court, you've got the judges sat at the top, normally there's three of them.
Magistrates.
And just in front of them will be a legal advisor who's normally a qualified solicitor, just to make sure they don't do anything
they don't go off on a tangent, basically.
Quite.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're the magistrates' court, and every case, weirdly, and there is a reason for it historically, but for the layman, the man on the street, you're like, that's weird. But every case, whether it's speeding, dangerous driving, or murder, if you are, not that there's many bikers out there that we deal with who are murdering people, thankfully, but they all these cases start in the magistrates' court, and then eventually they might go up into the Crown Court, which we'll talk about in just a second.
Yeah.
So that's how that happens. So the coroner's court, magistrates' courts, and then Crown Courts.
Well, actually, and there's an interplay between the magistrates' courts and the Crown Court. If you remember, a few years ago, I was in the magistrates' court, and I didn't have a lay bench. I had a district judge. So they do have judges sitting in magistrates' court, and that case involved a biker who had sadly collided with a pedestrian, and the pedestrian had died. Now, the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, were at the magistrates' court with me, and we were arguing as to the correct venue to have the trial, as to whether the biker had done anything wrong. And in that case, we won the argument and kept it at the magistrates' court, and the district judge that heard the argument formed the opinion that he could deal with the trial, and if there was a guilty verdict, he could then pass it to the Crown Court for sentencing. But if the biker was acquitted, which ultimately he was, it was to stay at the magistrates' court. So maybe a slightly unusual one.
So just the word acquitted, that's sort of technical stuff we sometimes get. He was found not guilty.
Absolutely.
Effectively.
Yeah.
After Gavin had represented him. But I think on a different day, though, to be fair, if you'd have had three magistrates there, three lay people instead of a full-time judge,
I suspect they'd have simply passed it to the Crown Court without much in the way of argument. So having a district judge there was good, because district judges, they are qualified solicitors or barristers that have left private practice to go and sit as a full-time judge. So they're not lay people. They are experienced and understand the law because they've had an entire career.
So just picking up on, we mentioned the Crown Court. So if we think the sort of lower court in the criminal world is magistrates, then the next level up is the Crown Court. So if the magistrates, the lay people, think it's too serious for them to deal with, You'll enter your plea usually at the magistrate's court, and then if it's guilty or not guilty, they might pass it up to the Crown Court, the more serious court to deal with. And up in the Crown Courts, they deal with all like serious cases basically, and you'll usually be in front of a judge. If you plead not guilty, you'll have a jury, and then if you are defending your case, obviously your defence team, and we do criminal defence work as well for bikers, will put forward your case to try and defend a case if something's been alleged against you by the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, who are effectively acting on behalf of the state. And then you're basically judged, really, is probably the best way of looking at it, by your jury that will be in the courtroom with you, which should be 12
jury members, lay people.
From the public, and away we go.
And also, I think judges in the Crown Court, you might find they have different titles, because you can have a recorder that's sat there, which might be a part-time barrister sitting as a judge, or you could have a judge normally with the prefix HHJ.
Yeah.
So his honour judge or her honour judge. So that's the Crown Court. Should we talk about the civil court for a minute?
Yeah, so this is where most of our calls from bikers could end up ultimately given evidence in the civil court. So if you've been knocked off, so let's just say, thankfully no one's died and no one's being prosecuted, or you're not being prosecuted as a biker, you might have to go to a civil court, what's they call it, civil court, to put forward evidence to try and get compensation for your injury. So you can end up in civil courts for lots of things, but it's a place to go to get a remedy to something.
Yeah.
So it could be a neighbourhood dispute with regards to a garden fence, or a small business hasn't paid you some money or whatever. But for our concern, for bikers that we represent...
For bikers who've had an accident, it's to push their legal remedy in a civil courtroom for their claim for damages. But you are right, it could be anything. Civil courts, they deal with, breach of contract.
Yeah.
Your roof has fallen through because the builder's done a bad job. But they are there for your remedy.
So, with regards to civil courts, they deal with liability and they deal with quantum. So if liability is admitted in your case, but the other side defend it and say, no, we're not paying you £10,000, we think it's worth £5,000, you might go off to court to argue about how much your case is worth. Or you could have a scenario where there's an accident between a bike and a van, let's say, and the van driver says, not my fault. That judge will also hear evidence from you, the biker, the van driver, maybe the police and witnesses, and go, right, I find after hearing the evidence on the balance of probabilities that you, the biker, have done nothing wrong. It's the van driver, so you win on liability. And I've heard all the medical evidence and I heard what you say, and I think your case is worth £10,000, let's say.
Actually, you make a really good point there, because you said the balance of probabilities.
It's a different test, absolutely. So pick up on that.
In civil courts, the legal burden is the balance of probability. So if you're in a civil court, you just need to prove on balance that it's more likely to have happened. So 51% or more. If you look at the criminal courts, the burden is much higher. It's beyond reasonable doubt. So there's the difference in the legal test, the legal burden in two different court systems, if I can call it that.
Okay. So hopefully that helps you guys and girls at home who are riding bikes with regards to understanding the court system. We kind of wanted to just explain that, because it's easy for us perhaps because it's our area of work. A bit like your area of work, you'll know what you're doing in your area of work. But if something happens, you haven't got a clue who's who. Who's the coroner? Or who's the criminal court? What's going on? So hopefully that's given you an overview.
Yeah. Just to finish on civil courts, because we've got the county court we've spoken about, and above the county court, you've got the high court. So we've got some bikers, sadly, who are very seriously injured. We don't start those cases in the county court. We start them immediately in the high court, which might be £250,000 upwards in value.
And it gets more complicated as well. If you hear about in the news the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court or something like that, these are kind of the super duper high courts. We're not going to go too much into those stakes. If it's got that far,
you definitely need legal representation. But I mean, the Court of Appeal can deal with matters from criminal courts or civil courts. But we'll probably not discuss those at any great length here.
We'll be here all day.
Actually, saying that, there is a YouTube channel for the Court of Appeal. So if you go, we might put the link to it below, actually, you can actually look at live cases in the Court of Appeal, because they now video everything that happens there.
So we are.
If you like the video, please leave your comments below. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on another video in the Truth About series.